me, I want to show you something.
We need to talk about it.
Talk about what?
And get a little clarity about it. I heard you when you told me it was bye-bye love. But I know that we can make this better and survive the storm no matter the weather. So tell me what to do, cause I don't wanna lose your love. I thought our love was strong. So where did we go wrong? You don't wanna stay, baby, but I can't walk away. Can we take it back? Back to a time where it was you and I. Back to a time where we knew love would never die. No, so can we take it all back? Back to a time when love was in control. Back to a time when we loved with heart and soul. Let's take it back. I hate to see you cry, my dear.
Give me, I want to
So
show you
let
something.
me come and dry your tears. I wanna be the one to hold you forevermore. I can see your heart's in pain, and you're feeling like you're going insane. So put your mind at ease and let's reach for love again. I thought our love was strong. So where did we go wrong? You don't wanna stay, baby, but I can't walk away. Can we take it back? Back to a time when it was you and I. Back to a time when we knew love would never die. No, so can we take it on back? Back to a time when love was in control. Back to a time when we loved with heart and soul. Let's take it back. Back to a time when it was you and I. Back to a time when we knew love would never die. No, so can we take it on back? Back to a time when love
Wait, I wanna
was
show you
in
something.
control. Back to a time when we loved with heart and soul.
Hello, we are the Real Bravado Network, and we examine Black people relationships from an image perspective. Image impacts and influences your life and life experiences. It also determines how you were treated and how serious you will be taken. It can also influence your mobility, up or down. Image is a reputation that you are known for, which includes your behaviors, your character, and your appearance. The Real Bravado Network can't complete these objectives without a forensic examination of the 3 phases of the live stream: her image, his image, and our collective image. The Real Bravado Network want Black men and women to win with each other. One way of doing that is to protect each other's image, but first, examining what we have done to our collective image. Please support the Real Bravado Network on YouTube by clicking subscribe, hitting the thumbs up button, clicking the bell notification for updates, and leaving a comment in the comment section. Here at the Real Bravado Network, we dare to be bold, not silent.
Yeah. Who's keeping it real? Who's really had a bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope.
How rap turned bad, I never know. I remember Ozone and Turbo and Curtis Blow solo singing. These are the breaks. The first time I heard a Too Short tape. Controversy on where it started and what state. In '88, I watched it elevate. It got so large, the corporate America made it circulate. Now thanks to that, it's money in gangsta rap. Try to eliminate vinyl, man, these motherfuckers done snap. I feel like that was direct blow, aimed toward the ghetto. They don't fucking rock and roll, it's like taking guitars out of heavy metal. And I ain't gonna settle for that, so I keep my shit waxed. For my hip hop heads and my turntable and crate cats. Down to keep it underground, without the railroad. 100 million copies made, that's 100 million copies sold. So fuck platinum and gold, I'm on some next level, yo. Make the scientists add an element to the periodical. I'm Christopher Columbus, I'm unchartable. Until I hit land, the dirtiest nigga around. Esau, shit, black sand. And I ain't a liar, I do it for the money and the fans and the power that I feel. When the mic's in my hands, it be like
who's keeping it real? Who's really had the bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope. Who's keeping it real? Who's really had the bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope.
Yo, push the envelope, raise prices up and down like ski slopes. Ghetto wishes and lost hopes. Move past the slow poke, selling chopped up soap. I parlay amongst my people, I parlay amongst my folks. Spitting hip hop quotes. This rap life, this street life ain't no motherfucking joke. I'm daily dreaming about 30,000 dedicated fans. Real life one-man bands, DJ speaking with his hands. But on the other hand, we splurge grands. Rolling in a full-size Chevy Conversion van. Thinking of power moves, schemes, and scams. And how can we make these G's expand? My next plan, credit card scheme and scan. Triple beams and grams. Before this thing called hip-hop, I take a first stand.
To make a statement. I'm trying to be your man with boys is trying to be complacent. My motivation is to inspire innovation. Without hesitation, we pioneers in this situation. Real MCs are chosen to create messages spoken. Hip-hop's a way of life that can't be taken from a joking. Now through it all, I stand and pledge my devotion. Let my words soothe the world like tough skin and lotion. Lessons of life are vitamins again and again. Stress up my shoulders through the weed and the pen. I holds my head up, walking through doors of the setup. Cause niggas wait for niggas to fall, that's how they place their bet up. I'm not afraid, since hip-hop needs an upgrade. It's time to be the grand marshal of the ticker tape parade. I try to say what most won't, and do what most don't. Stop thinking that I can't, and stop saying that I ain't. I dare to be different, yo, that's part of being gifted. They charge loom large, make sure my people is uplifted. I push for the realness, till God decide to end it. The mid mess my domain, so I ride out independent. Who's keeping it real? Who's really had the bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? And take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope. Who's keeping it real? Who's really had the bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope.
We are the Real Bravado Network, and we address Black relationships from an image perspective. Image impacts and influences your life and life experiences. It also determines how you are treated and influence how people interact with you. Image is the reputation that you are known for, which includes your behaviors, your character, and your appearance. There's nothing more damaged than the image of the Black man in America. The Real Bravado Network's next phase of development with our live stream, Have the Conversation, will focus on his image. The Real Bravado Network will be asking, how can a Black man be a leader of his community and home when the vast majority of Black men have never been led? Leadership is taught and a skill that needs coaching, development, and refinement. Over the next few months, we will complete a forensic examination of his image. Please join the Real Bravado Network on YouTube, but we dare to be the bold, not silent.
I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten. Just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win. Every day I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten. Just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win. Every day I get it in. I'm a king and I will never knew. Plotting for my fall, you getting hanged for treason. I don't aim to please, do anything I feel. Haters gonna talk, don't listen to the shit. They tryna be like me, they know they can, yo. Can't even get close, I'm on a pedestal. Sitting on my throne, my neck be decked in gold. I don't do no hoes, I've got a queen though. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten. Just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win. Every day I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten. Just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win. Every day I get it in. I'm a king. I told you guys before, ready for the war, to get me way much more. Gather all these parts, add them to my kingdom. Shout out to my fans for pledging your allegiance. You get a reward, the best flow you've ever heard. I don't be mixing with birds, I'm a lion on the surge. Always pushing to the edge, facing arrows, never scared. For my greatness I'ma serve, and only under myself. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten. Just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win. Every day I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten. Just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win. Every day I get it in.
Okay, I was muted. All right, y'all. Listen, last week we had over 2,000 people view the stream last week. This Black Man Can't Lead is hitting on all topics. There was a lot of comments after the show regarding the topic, which is good. I think during the show we actually ended up with like a few hundred people watching live. You know, it took them a little bit to get on, but they got on. You know, so I appreciate that. We are the Real Bravado Network, and we talk about Black relationships from an image perspective. And this is Have the Conversation. That's the name of the stream, okay? My name is Tavares Moore, so we're going to get down to business. Before we get started on the stream today, before we get into, I actually want to share a story, and I'm gonna try to make this quick because we got a lot to do today. So over the weekend, you know, I work, and I work in the hospital. And so I was sitting around, it's about 1:30 in the morning. I was talking to one of the ladies, a lady that worked there. She's 53 years old. And I'm always in the middle of these conversations about Black relationships, where we stand, and I get a pretty good idea of where our women, what our women feel about us, relationships, where they should go, what we should be doing. So I get a good earful from a lot of perspective. But so we got to talking about, like, you know, why so many of our ladies are single, and they're like, I ain't no, and constantly, ain't no brothers around, ain't no black men around. I said, there are plenty of Black men around. I said, there are plenty of Black men in the hospital. And she didn't believe me. She was, there are no Black men that work here. I said, there's a ton of Black men that work here. I said, not only do they work here, We have multiple Black doctors under the age of 40. We got nurse practitioners, nurses. We got, all the way down to the security. I said, we're everywhere. And this is at 1:30 in the morning. And so she just refused to believe, because she goes, I don't ever see hardly any brothers walking around here. And I told her what I told a lot of sisters. The reason why you don't see a lot of brothers is because you don't see a lot of brothers. We are invisible to you. You walk past us like we don't exist. You won't speak to us. When you see us out in public, you're not friendly. You ignore. And so I told her, I said to her, I'm gonna do an experiment. We're gonna start on the top floor, the 10th floor of the building. We're gonna we're gonna go to every floor. This is during our lunch break. I said we're gonna go through every floor. We're gonna go to every department that we have access to at night. And I'm gonna show you every one of the brothers that are here. And I told her, I said, and the vast majority of them are single. So we're talking about brothers who earn on the low end of 35 on up to the physicians that earn well over $200,000-$300,000. This lady did not believe. And I asked her, I said, how many brothers do you think we're going to run into? She said 4. She said 4. We started on the top floor. There were 4 Black nurses just on the top floor by themselves. And I walked up to every single one of those brothers, and I told them what I was doing. She don't think that there are Black men that work here. She don't think there are Black men that work here that earn a decent living. I said, and each brother, are you married? No. We went from the 10th floor to the 9th floor to the 8th floor to the 7th floor to the 6th floor to the 5th floor to the 4th floor. We were already on the 3rd floor, and that where we started at, we were always on the 3rd floor. There were me and 4 other nurses on the 3rd floor. There were Black men. We went down to the laboratory. There were 2 brothers in the laboratory that processed all the labs. All of the blood and the lab work for the hospital. There were 2 brothers in there running that, under 40. We went to the security office. Now, the oldest men in the building were the security guards, and they range anywhere between 40 and 65. Introduced at every level, there was at least 2 to 4 Black men in this building, and this is at 1:30 in the morning, where there's only about 25% of the actual staff that the hospital have on a regular shift at night. We went to security, went to the housekeeping department, brothers everywhere. Here's another funny thing along the way. I actually spoke to every Black woman on every floor in every department with a Black woman with me. Only 3 people out of about 200 sisters spoke back. This was a absolute shock to this 52-year-old woman. One, that there are that many brothers that worked in the building, that there are that many brothers out here single, unmarried, and the vast majority of the brothers that she do. Oh, I also asked them about if they had children, and most of them didn't have any kids. She was stunned. And I said, you're stunned because you don't know us. And we are invisible to you. We're going to do a stream when we get to our image, where we specifically talk about the fact that the vast majority of our sisters don't understand how many brothers are out here in this world that you don't pay attention to. So that's my little story. I was a little bit annoyed about that. And I want to, every time I stress that, I want to stress that over and over again on streams. Our sisters, y'all need to understand something. We're out here. We're just invisible to you. And the question that need to come up about that is, why are we invisible to you? And these, we're not even getting into character or anything like that. We're just talking about solid brothers with the economic stability to be able to do what they need to do for a woman in the house. And the vast majority of us, you can't even see. You ignore us. That this 50-something-year-old woman did not believe that there were that many brothers that worked in the hospital. Oh, yeah. And then I went down, I introduced her to the 2 doctors in the emergency room who were both brothers who were running the emergency room. Doctors. Both of them unmarried, without children. And one of them got a thing for one of the sisters down on the 8th floor, and she won't have nothing to do with him. and he's a doctor. He's like considered the best of us. All right, so let's get down to business. All right, that's enough of me ranting about that. We got enough to rant about with today's stream, okay? Look, so, we do, Black relationships from an image perspective. And remember, image is the reputation that a person is known for, which includes your behaviors, your character, and your appearances, okay? All of those things make up your image. When I do streams like this, or when we, because I consider us a we here, do streams like this, not only should you make the streams like informative, but it should be a bit entertaining and engaging as well. And sometimes it's hard to do both. It really depends on the personalities that are involved in the stream. But today for the first half of this stream, I got to do a little bit of, I gotta teach a little bit. So y'all hold fast and bear with me while I work through this first part of the stream where we're going to talk about Birth of a Nation. Okay, not the movie about Nat Turner, but the original Birth of a Nation. All right. My brother's in there going, oh yeah. So before we get to the stream title today, which the title of the stream is called Cowardly Men, before we get there, let's spend a few moments in class, okay? So 2 weeks ago, we started our stream. We started our His Image series with this Black Men Can't Lead series, which examined which we are attempting to examine the very notion that Black men can't lead. So we have looked at it from the standpoint of where we are today, relationally with each other, and what I mean by each other, I mean Black men and Black women. Too often, I've stated this before, too often we hear our Black women express that they just want a Black man to lead, or that there isn't enough Black men to lead or willing to lead. So when you will also hear Black women say that that they take the lead from us because they didn't have a choice. All right. When it comes to Black men, it seems that questioning or challenging a Black man's ability to be an effective cover for his woman, his family, is an acceptable and necessary thing to do. No matter where we go, Black men, our manhood is always being challenged or questioned. When we get to the wrap up at the end of the wrap up stream, we're going to talk about it, because we're going to talk about Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Our manhood sometimes is even challenged within our family and sometimes within our own homes. And with women, and it's being done primarily with women that share a reflection, and our women should have a better understanding of the challenges that her Black man faces. But that level of compassion from the women that tend to share our reflection sometimes can seem a little absent. And sometimes I ask the sisters, where's the benefit of the doubt for your brothers? Where's the benefit of the doubt? One other narrative you hear our women hear out of our women is that no one holds men accountable for who they are and what we do. But yet Black men are the most scrutinized group in this country. No other group of men has the image and the integrity of themselves dragged more than Black men. No other group of men's character is tied to the worst of men of our group. We're the only group of men that we are tied to what the worst of our men do. What other group of men in this country has had to endure the disgusting actions like buck breaking? So when they talk about Black men are not held accountable, man, look, those are almost fighting words to me. We are constantly under scrutiny. You know, this attitude of questioning or challenging a black man's ability to effectively cover his woman and his family gives the impression that there is a profound lack in this area when it comes to all black men. Remember, the world sees the value of a man through the eyes of his woman. And if the black community of black women have the impression or viewpoint that black men in general, where did it come from? And are black men to blame for this lack? So if our women have this thought process, where did it come from? And are we to blame for the lack? Because leadership takes accountability. Last week, we explored and had the conversation about the origins of that mindset that we don't associate leadership really with black men, especially in the eyes of black women. We talked about it from a programming standpoint and how effective programming is even throughout the generations. Even though we all know what happened to us, even though we know what the systematic programming has done and the outcomes it led, the pure nature of programming, meaning you will continue to do those things even though you know better. That's programming, okay? Now listen, if you are into superheroes or supervillain stories like Iron Man, Captain America, Batman, those kind of things, in the comic book world, they have a thing called the origin story. An origin story is like the backstory or the establishment background narrative that informs the identity and the motives of the heroes and the villain. Simply put, an origin story is how the person came to be who they are in the current time. So what is the origin story of the current black man image? We did a live stream. So the last live stream we did, we connected the Willie Lynch letter, which is the programming, and buck breaking, which is the tool for the programming, to the lack of faith that black women, to the possible lack of faith that black women have in black males' leadership. But I'm not so sure that's really the origin story of the national image of the modern day black man in this country. I actually consider like Buck Breaking and Willie Lynch, I kind of consider those more like prequels, like the story before the story. If you poll over 100 black scholars and have them discuss the origins of the decline of the black image, the black man's image, I would like to think the overwhelming majority will point to D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. The film was and is was very controversial even before it was released, and it has been called the most controversial film ever made in the United States and the most reprehensible racist film in American history to this day. I'm going to say that one more time. The film was controversial even before it was released, and it's been called by every major critic, every major institution, the most controversial film ever made in the United States and the most reprehensible racist film ever produced by Hollywood. I want you to hold that thought for a second, okay? I want you to hold that one for a second. This film has been denounced for its racist depictions of black folk. The film portrays black characters, almost all played by white folks in blackface, as unintelligible, sexually aggressive towards white women. The Ku Klux Klan is portrayed as the heroic force necessary to preserve American values and protect white women and maintain white supremacy. This was a film. This propaganda laid the foundation for the image of the current black men that we still have today. This was also the first major motion picture that was screened in the White House by President Woodrow Wilson. His family was there and members of his cabinet. This was the most popular film among white audiences nationwide. The film success was both a conquest of and a contributor to racial segregation throughout the United States. This film came in 1915 during the silent generation, right after Reconstruction, during a time where Black folks, and to this day, had developed and progressed more than any other time in history, including today. This is crazy to think about that. In response to the film depiction of Black people in the Civil War history, Blacks across the U.S., across the country, organized. They did try to protest in Boston. The NAACP spearheaded this campaign to try to get the film removed. They were unsuccessful to have it banned or banished. It flamed the racial tensions in this country. Okay, I'm gonna play a really quick clip from Birth of a Nation. Okay.
D.W. Griffith's A Birth of a Nation is one of the most important films in cinema history, and is considered to be the birth of the American film industry. It's hard to overstate the impact that this film had both on the medium of film itself and on culture as well. The film was responsible for some major leaps in film. D.W. Griffith's A Birth of a Nation is one of the most important films in cinema history, and is considered to be the birth of the American film industry. It's hard to overstate the impact that this film had both on the medium of film itself and on culture as well. The film was responsible for some major leaps.
Yeah, let's see. I think somebody's playing. I think YouTube messing with us with what we're trying to do. Let me try this again, y'all. Oh, Lord.
D.W. Griffith's A Birth of a Nation is one of the most important films in cinema history, and is considered to be the birth of the American film industry.
Here, guys, I'm going to try to play this another way. Hold on a second. Because, no, we're going to play this. They out their mind if they think we ain't going to play this. Hold on. Video. Let me see if I can pull it directly in. Birth of a Nation. Here we go. Tavares.
D.W. Griffith's A Birth of a Nation is one of the most important films in cinema history, and is considered to be the birth of the American film industry. It's hard to overstate the impact that this film had both on the medium of film itself and on culture as well. The film was responsible for some major leaps in film technology, including the first scene shot at night by a phosphorus lamp, along with new developments in editing technique and camera movement. But culturally, however, the film carries somewhat of a darker legacy. Even in 1915, the film was met with controversy. Showing of the films were protested by the newly formed National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People for its portrayal of black people. Executive Secretary of the NAACP, Mary Childs Nerney, wrote, "The harm that it is doing to coloured people cannot be estimated. I hear echoes of it everywhere I go, and I have no doubt that this was in the mind of the people who are producing it." The film's portrayal of black people was so terrible that it was still being used as a recruitment tool for the Ku Klux Klan as late as the 1970s. With a runtime of just over 3 hours, the film is split into two halves, separated by an intermission. The first half is set at the outbreak of the Civil War. It follows two families, the Northern Stonemans and the Southern Camerons. It shows us their intertwined lives as they fight throughout the war. It's filled with spectacular battle scenes and ends with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and a defeated South having to face harsh treatment at the hands of a victorious North. The second half of the film focuses on the reconstruction of the South after the war and the glorious origin of the film's supposed heroes, the Ku Klux Klan. The film shows South Carolina just after the war being occupied by black Union soldiers who push white people off sidewalks and are sexually aggressive towards white women. In one scene, a young white girl jumps to her death to avoid being pursued by a black man who is looking to force her into marriage. Black supremacists rig an election by intimidating white voters and stuffing ballot boxes, and the newly elected black legislators are depicted barefoot in the State House of Representatives, drinking whiskey and eating fried chicken. Meanwhile, our hero, Ben Cameron, sees a group of white children putting on sheets to pretend to be ghosts in order to scare black children, and is inspired to form the Klan to fight back. By the end of the film, the Klan regain control of their town from the black oppressors, and on the next election day, they form a line to intimidate black voters and finally restore power. Despite the film's overall message of overt racism, it was still incredibly popular. It remained the highest grossing movie of all time until it was replaced by Gone with the Wind in 1939. It was even the first film to be shown in the White House to President Woodrow Wilson. On a technical level, the film surpassed anything else that came before it.
Now, you know, in spite of his divisiveness, like the man said and that was narrating, Birth of the Nation was a huge commercial success across the country. At that time, the highest grossing film that ever been made, you know, and it did influence the film industry and how they made films. Okay, the technology that was used, they still use it today. It also shaped the conscience of America. And when you say America, you're basically saying white America. Because the cultural norm is that America is associated with white ownership, meaning whites are indoctrinated or culturally conditioned to believe that this land is their birthright. And that white superiority and color inferiority, and the manifestation of that is black people of color are underestimated, undervalued, and marginalized. This film has been acknowledged as the inspiration for the rebirth of the Ku Klux Klan. Prior to 1900, the Ku Klux Klan, after the Civil War, the Ku Klux Klan had been all but abolished in this country. But this film right here became the chief propaganda and recruiting tool for the Ku Klux Klan. So you want further proof of cultural conditioning? Remember that thing that I told you to hold tight for a second about? That in this country, this film was deemed the most controversial film ever made in the United States and the most reprehensibly racist film in Hollywood history. There is no other film that's ever been made in this country that has been deemed more reprehensible and more racist than this film. But what happened in 1992? The Library of Congress deemed this film to be culturally and historically significant. And it selected this film for forever preservation in the National Film Registry. But they felt it was reprehensible. Cultural conditioning. I'm not going to go into an all-out deep dive into the film. About a year ago, Kevin Samuels did a full hour on the impact of this film and on the image of black men. And I don't want to make this stream today about another version of that. He did an excellent job. The name of that stream he did was called Why Does Image Matter So Much? And I just put a link in the comment section to that stream. And whenever you get time, go watch it. He does a very more in-depth detailed analysis of how that film specifically impacted our image. Okay. So I just want you guys to know that. We're going to get into a little bit about it, but we're not going to do a great deep dive in it because we got other goals over here. So I brought up Birth of a Nation as an illustration on what happens when you win the war. And let's keep it a buck. The South may have lost the Civil War, but black people damn sure lost a cultural war. at least the culture war that matters, the war of perception and image. And the winners of any war get to write the story and shape the narrative. And what was the narrative in Birth of a Nation? Black people, more specifically black men, are lowbrow or dim-witted, aka stupid, vicious and violent, immoral, uncouth, or uncivilized. We are sex-craved deviants, and we have an unquenchable thirst for white women. That narrative that movie created, if you take a deep listen to what our women say about us, they say the exact same things about us as what that movie intended to inspire in white America at that time about black people. We have to be careful about how we talk about one another, engage with one another, because we are completely woefully unaware of what we are doing from a historical perspective to one another, and the fact that we are perpetuating something that we did not develop, that they developed in an effort to keep us in annihilation. If they could not physically keep us in bondage and apart, then they can do it by other means, namely destroying the image, sabotaging your image. Let's look at one more thing before we get rocking and rolling. When the movie came out in 1915, blacks in this country were thriving at a rate that has not been met since. I'm not talking about individually. I'm talking about from a community standpoint. There were whole cities established, run, and funded by black folks. Also during this time, Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, was in full swing during this time. Also during this time, there were more elected black local, state, and national officials than in any other point in American history, including today. This film put an end to this. So how do we tie this film with Black Men Can't Lead? The power of Birth of a Nation reinforced a narrative regarding black people, especially black men, in the cultural lexicon of white folks that has lasted for over 100 years. And it bled into the minds and behaviors and attitudes of us and how we deal with and handle each other. Birth of a Nation, in my opinion, is the origin story for the image, the current image, national image of Black America. So, okay. So let's recap. The last past three streams, including this one, we examined the notion of black men can't lead. We looked at the current state of black men's leadership through the eyes of our woman. We asked the fellas on the stream, are black men fit to lead? Then we took a historical look. We examined the issues that historically may impacted black male leadership through the eyes of our women by dealing with programming of the Willie Lynch letters, the tool of buck breaking black men. And now I spent some time tying in what I feel is the origin stories of the modern day image of the black man. So with all of that, I'm going to ask one of my favorite questions. Black people as a whole have been dealt a real, I got written down here, a real shitty hand, but I'm not going to say that. Well, I guess I just said it. You know, black people as a whole have been dealt a real bad hand in this country. Even those that despise us, they are, if you press them, they'll understand that they were dealt a trash hand, that we were dealt a trash hand. Chris Rock even made a joke about this. Okay? Hold on a second.
The fellas in there. a Puerto Rican by me? That's not Pocahontas, that's Jennifer Lopez. Like racism everywhere. Who's the maddest people? White people. Not y'all, y'all all right. Pay money to see me, we cool. The feud is over. Now, you watch the TV, you watch like 60 Minutes and shit, you see white people pissed off, man. Mad, the white man thinks he's losing the country. You watch the news like, we're losing everything. We're fucking losing. Affirmative action and illegal aliens, and we're fucking losing the country. Losing, shut the fuck up. White people ain't losing shit. If y'all losing, who's winning? It ain't us. It ain't us. Have you driven around this motherfucker? It ain't us. Shit. Shit, there ain't a white man in this room that would change places with me. None of it. None of it would change places with me, and I'm rich.
When I say that even when you press them, that they know we were dealt a bad hand. Chris Rock said that. I mean, he was like, look, I'm rich and y'all wouldn't trade places with me. If you listen to the rest of it, he was like, nah, I'm gonna ride this white thing out for a while, see how I go. You talk about a really poor white man. But yeah. So just because, listen, just because you were dealt a bad hand, does that mean you always have to lose? Everybody's familiar with spades. We've all been dealt with a bad hand of spades, but does that really mean that you have to lose? One of my favorite questions I ask is, at what point in your life are you responsible for your own life? After the 3D radio break in just a second, we're going to come back and deal with the title topic of the stream, and I'll bring my guests up and everything, and we're going to and in the spirit of the question I just asked, we're going to examine the very notion. At what point are you responsible for your own life? Given where we are right now, I'm going to also ask the question: are black men cowards? But hold on a second before we get there, because I'm gonna frame it a certain way. Okay. Despite all of the things that were done to us and continue to happen to us, at what point are black men completely responsible for the outcomes of the black community? At what point do we just got to do something? Okay. 3D radio break. When we come back, I'm going to bring up the guys. We have a lady with us tonight. We're going to get into it. And I'm pretty sure they're chopping at the bit to get into some of this stuff, especially and feel free to bring up anything related to the birth of a nation. We'll get there. We'll see you guys on the other side in just a second.
Understand this, the way that I spit it like putting strokes on the canvas. Taking notes of all the urban cries, put it down, materialize, then watch as the paint dries. Better bet the ink, cause every time I think it's time to keep it flow while these other cats sing. No Titanic, too over dramatic. I feel like new edition in the brain now. Tell me, can you stand it? With each word I'm building me a steeple. And if you open my works up, there you'll find my cathedral. You got your wood stains, a little glass paint, but it all tell a story, man. Think that it can't. Where I come from, it's deer hunters and street guns. So I spray these words like the Uzi weighs a ton. And it's that heavy. I'm pouring this out from my heart to give you the truth the way that you see it's art. Now you can tell by the voice that it ain't the truth, and everything that spit is just like a brushstroke. Paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch. Yo, this life is hard work. Now you can tell by the voice that it ain't a joke, and everything that it spit is like a brushstroke. Paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch. Yo, this life is hard. My description, better yet my mission is to visualize and give the world vision. Work to heal the streets with a little audio heat. And smooth it all out over laid back beats. A to the R to the T, Wisco flow. Like you're in a gallery and see a Picasso. But this ain't Picasso, baby. Even though it's like Jay, cause it's gonna drive the world crazy. This is for those admiring and looking. I heat it up for Instagram and play the rest cooking. It's so acrylic every time that I spit it. My foliage show that I all get it. Speaking of, this art get wows and awes. Like a masterpiece that's up in the halls. Everything is so realistic, but better yet, man, yo, it's so artistic. Cause now you can tell by the voice that it ain't a joke, and everything that's spit is just like a brushstroke. Paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch. Yo, this life is hard work. Now you can tell by the voice that it ain't a joke, and everything that it spit is like a brushstroke. Paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch. Yo, this life is hard work. My glaze hand bring the pick on home. I'm just an artiste in the Midwest zone. Now it's a lot of cats that paint, but they ain't making art. Cause they be lying from the very start. So I make it a point that I paint what I feel. Cause I know deep inside what I feel is all real. And this exhibit don't end till I say so. Sincerely yours, Michael Tangelo. Now you can tell by the voice that it ain't a joke, and the way that it spit is like a brushstroke. Paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a picture. Yo, this life is hard work. Now you can tell by the voice that it ain't a joke, and the way that it spit is like a brushstroke. Paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a bitch, paint a picture. Yo, this life is hard work. It's all hard work, baby. Welcome to my masterpiece, theater. Now you can go on and get a bootleg of it if you need to, you know what I'm saying? You can hang it on your wall, you don't even need a frame. It's too much, tomfoolery. This where the schooling be. I'm too grown for all that buffoonery. Why cats thinking it's sweet like perfumery?
Before we get into the major topic of the stream, welcome back, guys. Do you want to say something about what about the teaching I had to do at the beginning?
Of course, I would definitely love to kind of contribute to that.
Go ahead.
First of all, you're absolutely on point when it comes to the statistics of the birth of a nation. I truly appreciate you for that, for doing that research, because I love research and statistics. The one thing that I would love to add to the matrix kind of the birth of a nation is the fact that it was based on a book. Like a lot of great movies that we know, it was based on a book called The Klansman.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes.
Right. So, of course, it would be used as a tool or a tool of recruitment, right, for the 3K, because it was designed as such, kind of like, you know, the people who did it in another country that we know of very well that started a Holocaust. Same basic premise, you know. But the one thing that I want to make sure that we kind of look at too is the fact that it was also based on something that came out a few years earlier that we know of very well, that we sometimes use out of context, by an incredible writer and artist by the name of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote the book, and which came into the adaptation of Uncle Tom's Cabin, which I believe helped a lot of what they did in Birth of a Nation like you said, the technology that they used, some of the imagery, some of the adaptation of real life that was happening at that time. I believe that Harriet Beecher Stowe gave a great adaptation of what was happening at the time, and Birth of a Nation just kind of took it to another level.
Mm-hmm. Frederick, are you into like the comic movies and stuff like that?
I do watch them.
Okay, so how do you feel? Do you believe that Birth of a Nation might be the origin story for our image for modern day?
I think so, because it depicts us in kind of it depicts us in a way that's how can I put this? I won't. It is that thing, but it puts our image in like a really negative light. Um, not that we're not capable of doing it ourselves, but that movie, and plus how things are now kind of repeats themselves. It makes us look like we're these people that don't have common sense. We're not necessarily intelligent and things of that nature, and to just to kind of put just to say this, we know that we know that it's the exact opposite, but again, image is something that stays with a person even in death. At least that's how I look at it. That's something my dad told me.
Yeah, yeah. Pastor Rush, what do you think about Birth of a Nation being the origin story of the black man's image?
To reflect, I don't know if you can hear me well enough, but
Yeah, we can hear you real good.
Great. To reflect on what both brothers were saying, I agree with them 100%. And the concept, I think, falls within the scope of what you have been discussing for the last 3 weeks. You mentioned 3 things that I see based on this thought and this thought alone. I don't want to reflect on what has been offered to us as a way of perception of who we are. What I see in all that's been said is, well, why shouldn't they if they want to control us and keep us from becoming who we are? You change the narrative, then you change the image. And you use 3 concepts from 3 platforms that you had in trying to ensure that. Number 1, you talked about looking through the eyes of the women. Secondly, you talked about the historical concept, and today the origin stories that have again preconceived us in coming up with our own image. So with the women, what I see, the reason why we can't lead is because they perceive us to be weak. With the historical concept, it's all fabricated and it's designed to create a dysfunctional image. Since we don't have one, they're giving us one, and they've used all of the media avenues to try to present that. But then lastly, the origin stories, I think it's presented to discredit our values. How valuable are we? We don't even know. And so we go in circles like the dog chasing his tail, as if we're going to catch an image that's going to drop through osmosis. When in reality, we got to get together and we have to change the narrative, then we change the image.
Okay. Philly, if you can hear me, go ahead and cam up. If you can hear me, go ahead and cam up. Go ahead, Frederick.
So the one thing that you mentioned, Pastor Rush, is very, very, very important. So the one thing that I want to add to that and ask this one question is that, and it was right on the top of my head, so but I'm gonna ask it anyway. So how do we differentiate and decipher our true image to when everything that's been thrown at us is fabrication?
I would I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
No. I was just saying I love the question. Please.
Oh yeah,
please.
it's a great question. I appreciate that, Brother Frederick. The birth of a nation. You think about that. I think it was to again discredit us and to make us believe we are not valued and that there's no value that can come out of us. So as TJ has clearly articulated, all of the discrediting imagery that has been thrown at us in our culture, we've kind of took it on because we don't know who we are ourselves. We don't dig deep enough. We stop at a certain point rather than going all the way. For example, one of the issues I had in school coming up is not that I was a bad student. I didn't like the secondhand information that was being given to me. And so I didn't care about school a whole lot. You know, I mean, I appreciated Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, but it's more than that. It's deeper than that. It's further than that, and it's in another continent. You follow what I'm saying? So I think that when we lost our cultural integrity, then what we did was we allowed them to allow us to lose the cultural war that TJ was talking about. And since we've lost a cultural war, we're just accepting anything. No, we should we be defensive people when it comes to defending our right to live? Absolutely. And if it comes to destroying someone to live, then we should do that. Everyone else does it.
Woo!
Every other culture does it.
Pastor, you're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself, Pastor. You're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself. No, I love it. I love
revolution.
it.
That's revolution. In every language that you spit it, that's revolution. Come on now, that's revolution. You better spit that. That's revolution. Come on now.
Yeah, y'all gonna like the next stream then, because we're gonna talk about. Yeah, well, we'll get there. So let me get to framing the title, the information about the title of the stream, Cowardly Men. Let's talk about that for a second. Guys, give me a minute to talk about this, okay? All right, so listen. So we ended the last segment with right before the 3D radio break, asking at what point are you responsible for your own life? I mean, on an individual level, so many people are born, you know, I stated so many of us are born with a bad hand. When we have people in this country who don't know their parents, who lost both their parents very young, who may grow up very poor, who were abused in many different ways, not just physical. Some of us have made choices regarding people who we brought into our life that has put our life in a particular trajectory. And many of us made decisions who we have children with who set our life in a different trajectory. And I'm not talking about just the women, I'm talking about the men too. You know, let's not talk about the lack of economic opportunities or economic opportunities lost due to no fault of your own. I mean, there are millions of people that have stories about trauma and tragedy. Yeah, I can dig it. Bad stuff happens and things out of your control can come into play that disrupts. But I'm going to ask again, but at what point are you responsible for your own life? You know, at what point are you responsible for your own life? And here's the question for the men on the panel and the lady. Our history in this country is well documented, well studied. The long-term effects of how and why we got here, most people around the globe on some level can articulate some of the long-term effects of what we've been through. All the way from the broken promise of the 40 acres and a mule, from the various attacks on our communities, i.e. Rosewood, Tulsa. And if you want to bring it to more modern day, let's talk about the 1985 bombing of a black neighborhood in Philadelphia by the police department. Bombing. In 1985, the police from a helicopter dropped a bomb on American citizens. The war on drugs, the crime bill, and on and on and on. Yeah, black people, black men, black women, please understand, this country, this system, we as a collective have been screwed over. Only second to the Native Americans in this country. Here's a rhetorical question. And this is the heart of all of this. While I outlined all of this stuff, this historical stuff, this stuff that should give us apathy towards one another, because men weren't in this alone, women weren't in this alone. And now for the piggyback on where Pastor, jumped the gun a little bit, but that's okay. If men are the protectors of the community, at what point is it our responsibility to just put in the work and get it done? We want our women, black men want our women to be fit, friendly, beautiful, inspirational, and submissive. We want them to respect our gangster. We want them to respect our leadership. But here's the question of the night. How do we expect our women to fall in line when throughout history, whenever some other group comes in to cause harm, they simply conquer us? And they get away with it. What other group of men allow outsiders to come in, cause harm, and get away with it? I'm even talking about within our own ranks. 54% of black men, single, childless, earn enough money to be in the middle class. 35% of our men are 33% of our men are married. That's over 80% of black men that are in some form of productionism within this community. So 20% of our men are causing most of the chaos and all of the babies, but we allow the majority of our black men allow not only outsiders to come in and do harm. Look at your local black communities and the local community stores and who's running them and who owns them and all that good stuff, coming in, siphoning money out of your community. My question is, are we just a bunch of cowards? We do a lot of woofing. We tough Tony all day long. We'll tell you in a minute who we gonna knock out in a heartbeat. But when it comes down to what matters, are we simply cowards?
Please, somebody get on that, because I mean, this is a resounding absolutely not. Coming from this direction. So please.
No, go ahead, now, brother. Do your thing.
So I would have to say absolutely not, because for one point, and I'll go backwards to go forward. Listen, what we know as being a black man in this country, in my opinion, right? I'm a member of Generation X, right? I'm a child of the 70s. So when you mentioned a few things, right, there's a few connections for me, right? You mentioned Black Wall Street. You also mentioned at that time, the Freedmen's Bureau was coming about and trying to establish their foothold in black banking, right? Trying to show that we could also do the same things that some of the other cultures were able to do, right? But we were also fighting oppression at the same time, and kind of going into what Brother Malcolm said later, we are only ex-slaves in America, right? But we are also fighting this caricature that America has created. I said in a poem early on in my career, the victors pen the history, so the truth remains a mystery. And I believe we're still existing in that vein of thinking. To me, the American image of being Black is rooted in roots, right? It's more Toby than Kunta. Not, thanks to Kendrick Lamar, you know what I mean? Now King Kunta, everybody want to cut the legs off of Kunta. You know what I mean? Now everybody is seeing that, right? But you got to remember though, again, that film, the basis of that was to see more Toby than Kunta. They don't want to see Shaka Zulu, right? They don't want to see Matulu Shakur and Mumia and Kwame and Huey, right? They don't want to see those things. They want to see the Toby of the world, right? They want to see the bamboozled version of us, the step and fetch it, the man tan, the sleep and eat, right? Those are the things that are very clear to them in how they see the Black person, the Americana, if you will, of America, right? The Black image is simply 3/5, as they very clearly stated, right? Subservient to the white rule. Listen, I'm not making this up. Please do your own research when it comes to this, right? Again, like you said, the long-term effects of this. We've seen Rosewood. We've seen Tulsa, right? Also, I want to mention Tulsa was the first time that America used surface-to-air weaponry in combat, right? So again, using us as a testing ground, right? Kind of like the war on drugs and Reaganomics. We'll get into that in a little bit, but this is what they do, right? But at the same time, vilifying us for some of the same tactics that they use against us. Please, please.
Philly, I wanted to get your opinion. I when I framed the question for the title stream question, when I talk about how do you feel as a lady when I ask the question, if all of these other outside forces are allowed to come in and disrupt and our men don't do anything, is it a fair question to say, how do we expect our women to follow when we're not willing to even excommunicate those of our that look like us who are causing harm? So how do you feel about that narrative as a woman?
I feel like, as we were saying, like, it's just a slight disposition. Like, it can be done. Like, it can still be done. I don't think that men or not all men, of course, should be labeled as cowards in that, retrospect or whatever. But I mean, I don't too much agree with it.
Well, okay, I'm just playing the role of the devil's advocate. And me asking, are Black men cowards? Do I personally think we're cowards? No. But listen, I'm looking at what I'm looking at is the outcome. And I'm looking at what our women for 40 years have been screaming at us about, which is we're not protecting you, we're not leading you effectively. Note at the beginning of the stream, I said, now Black men, our image is tied to the worst of us. So whether we like that or not, as Black men about our image is tied to the worst of us. And are we responsible for that? Because no other culture is tied to the worst of their men. So I'm playing up the whole cowardly thing is asking because it's happening. And I don't know, we're not doing anything about it en masse. When I shared the story at the beginning about the 52-year-old lady that I work with who doesn't understand that she's working in a facility with a whole bunch of established Black men, and she said, don't know Black men work there. Who fault is? I mean, it's funny. I mean, we can laugh at her, but what does that say about the men's presence?
Yeah.
The presence of a man. And the fact that she goes, well, you're really the only brother that I see. That's because when I walk into a room, my presence, and when I don't talk a lot at work, Pastor Russia knows this, but when I talk, it ain't a whimper.
I would really love to know the sister's definition of a black man. Right? Because you mentioned earlier in that story, you went from floor to floor, introducing her to brothers all over this hospital. But what is her definition of a black man?
Or can she even
Because
give
she
a
couldn't see
definition?
them, right? You
She
can't
couldn't
see.
see. She didn't know. How do you not see all these dudes? And how do you not see? And
But my thing with that is like, and I don't mean to cut you off. My thing with that, if she hasn't seen a black man, not saying that they're not there, but you know, me, I'll be thinking, okay, department, position, you know, scheduling, because a lot of stuff is dependent upon that too.
no, it
So
ain't. No, it ain't.
it can be, yeah, yes it can.
No,
Yes
it
it can.
ain't.
Yes it
No, it
can.
ain't. If you want to
You know what
see,
though?
if you're talking about a company that employs about 2,000 people,
Yeah. Because
and
I know
this
here in Houston, like sometimes they have a whole lot of like Hispanic, like if it's a just say a whole lot of Hispanics working because they try to get. I mean, they have like a few, you know, English speaking people, but that if it's mostly like Hispanics, it'll be a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? Because they can communicate, not because they're like trying to discriminate. It's just like they're trying to fix the schedules where if they need, you know, more Spanish people, it'll be more Spanish people working and stuff like that. You get what
I'm,
I'm saying?
I
But
hear you. I'm still calling
yeah.
BS. Pastor, Pastor, and I met Pastor. Listen up real quick. I met Pastor at a hospital that served nearly exclusively, the wealthy of our community. So you know doggone well, ain't a lot of us in there. But I managed to go find a whole bunch of brothers, and I work on the night shift, overnight shift. I found Pastor because sorry, Pastor. Yeah, he was pushing a broom. Hey, how you doing there, fella? How you doing there, sir? I think that's the first thing I said to him. Hey, how you doing there, sir? Showing respect just for him, a man, because just as a man, not realizing him having to sterilize all of these rooms is probably the most essential a job that a hospital is needed. But our women will walk. My pastor's married, but women would walk past black women. The black women that did work there, which is not a lot, would walk past a pastor and barely lift an eyebrow in his direction. So I understand that, you know, they can schedule stuff and stuff like that. Well, listen, in my department, let me tell you something about the scheduling. One night, there were 4 black people in the entire department, and we all were on night shift. One day, they scheduled all 4 of us for the shift. They never do that, and we were the only ones for the shift. When they came, when the management came in that morning and realized that the entire respiratory department for the night were a bunch of black folk, it never happened again. So I get that, but I'm just saying, if it's in you to find, you can find it. So for our women to be like, you know, Philly, I kind of get it. Yeah, the one thing that I want us to get away from is trying to find a way to make it okay. I know that's not what you were doing, but the fact of the matter is, our women should not be in a situation where they don't know that they're surrounded by brothers.
But that's kind of, I mean, because anywhere I go, I'm always like looking like for us, like where are my people, no matter what. So I mean,
put me in the
that's
game,
just
coach.
me
Put me in
though.
the game, coach.
Like
Go ahead, Frederick.
where are my black people? So
No, go ahead, Philly. Go ahead and finish, Philly.
oh no, you can go ahead. I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
The one thing you mentioned about the cowardice thing. So I don't think my any of my brothers are cowards. However, to those who think that we are cowards, I would say this, and this goes to anybody, and I've said this before. So if we're gonna address the cowardice issue, then we also need to address the disconnection notice that's between black men and black women. So if we're gonna address one issue, we may as well address the other issue too, because there is a disconnection between black men and black women. So, but then also this cowardice thing, that's to me that is subjective. That is very subjective because if you're talking about protection, what is that? And I said this before to you before, T. What does that look like for a black woman? What is that? What image does protection look like? What is your expectation of protection? You know, are you looking for something? Are you looking for violence and chaos, or you wanting just genuine protection? Because for everybody that's a different definition.
Yeah,
But I
I
mean,
was
the
gonna say
cowardice
that
thing,
too.
no,
Different.
I can't. I can't deal. I can't. If we're gonna talk about cowardice, brother, we're going to deal with the disconnection notice that the black men and black women have between each other,
Yeah.
because that needs to be addressed first before we can talk about anything, any cowardice or anything else.
What are you gonna say, Pastor?
Well, I'm sorry. I was going to let my brother finish. I'm sorry. I was
No,
interrupting.
no,
Oh no,
he's
I'm
done.
good. I'm good.
Okay. Well, um, I think I think I see what everyone is saying uh, from their perspective, and definitely from the lenses of just having a pure relationship with the conversation. Um, However, when I hear cowardness based on at what point are you responsible for your own life, I would say the answer is now, but I would agree when it comes to the word coward, I wouldn't agree with the behavior of being a coward. And I think what TJ was saying, this is just my perception. What I heard TJ saying was a big old category, putting the word coward in a big old category. And to be put in a big category means that there are several directions you can go with that in which has taken place. For me, I would try to give a summation from two aspects of those directions. Number one, the word integrity, and number two, the word investment. For me, for example, if you would deviate with me and go back when you were talking about how women rule the home in the past segments, and the question was asked about when the housing movement or the housing project movement first started in the early 70s and late 60s, and how some came on and said he didn't have a choice. But they did have a choice. They chose to go into the projects to take the assistance that separated them from their men. And the men ended up going, if you will, excuse the expression, buck wild, because they were free to do whatever they wanted to do. They couldn't be in there at the end of the month because there was going to be security, paid security, by the way. The reason why I say that wasn't good to do because my mom had a choice. And my mom chose to follow my father, who, by the way, couldn't read and write. But yet he was bringing home, by working hard with his hands, $1,000 a week, giving it and providing for us every week. Now, why did I say that? Because I hear the word coward and I hear integrity and investment. And I hear don't underestimate your value, the value in marriage. December the 1st, I was married 35 years. The example that TJ is talking about, me being at the hospital, I was working a second job to finish up my master's. You see what I'm saying about the investment and the integrity, because I didn't want to be a coward. I wasn't going to allow someone to come into my space and influence my space. So I had to do what I had to do in order to stay in control. Our marriages in our community, our income, these are investments in places of integrity that we have to maintain our value in. Raising our kids. Do we ever talk about how we let them down by not giving them an example? Generational wealth. Do we
Or
talk
giving them,
about that?
or giving them giving them a family.
Or giving them a family, period.
Yes.
I remember, TJ, you saying that it's almost at a point where you got to just take someone with one kid.
You got to.
That's how bad it is.
We're gonna have to.
Can I say this real quick?
Go
What
ahead.
Brother Frederick said was, if we're going to talk about one side of the spectrum, got to bring balance and talk about the other side. And that's what I loved about what he said.
Yeah. Well, we spent 5 months talking to the ladies, but we're gonna, when we get to our next phase of the stream, our image, we're gonna do it together, because there's some relational things and the one thing that I've learned, one thing just by talking to a lot of ladies, when I tell them stuff, it's like they're hearing it for the first time. And I can't believe that they're hearing it for the first time coming from me. And maybe it's in the manner in which I am putting it. And I've told somebody talked about, well, maybe you need to. No, I'm tired of being polite about what's going on with us. The fact of the matter is, I was born in 77 or 8, somewhere around there. And anybody in my brand, basically from 76 to 84. We are the largest group of single people. Ain't no way in the world that if you 30-something years old or early 40s that you should be unmarried and by yourself. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. That's unnatural. And the likelihood of us getting together, it is because we've become accustomed to living by ourselves and not having a sacrifice. We're basically only children. We're selfish. Well, we'll get to that on another day. The cowardly thing we're going to revisit, because I think this is a question to ask in a couple different areas and a couple different sectors we're dealing with us. Yeah, it was a provocative question. Are we cowards? I asked the question because Mr. Elemental, can you unmute? Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see cowardly. You mentioned why do others simply conquer us and get away with it, right? And when you're talking about, are we cowardly? I think that is a very key juncture, because I would, and I despise this sometimes, but unfortunately in this case, I have to rebuttal a question with a question. How many other communities continue to have their vocal members or their powerful leaders assassinated or imprisoned or exiled for speaking up for their communities? I don't know of too many others. Every time I look back in this history of America and I see someone standing up or willing to use their voice in a unison, right? In a coalescence of others with a song for the people of color, they get taken out every single time, right? It doesn't matter the color of their skin. Every single person that does that makes themselves a proponent for the advancement of people of color, for the oppressed people or members of the third world, they are taken out every single time. So I don't think that I don't think that has bred a level of cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it goes to reinforce the stereotypes and the whitewashing or the brainwashing that we have been dealt in the system of oppression that is American education. Okay. It was designed to do exactly what it is doing today. right? I know, and I would implore everyone to look at the new Jim Crow by the incredible Michelle Alexander, and she shows that the prison or the school to prison pipeline is just a new level of, the plantation, right? Mass incarceration is just a new plantation. It really truly is. And to address one of your last questions, at what point in your life are we responsible for our own life? In my opinion, it's the moment that you realize your own consciousness. It's the moment that you recognize your circumstances. The moment that you recognize that you're eating government cheese for the the children of the 70s, for the moment that you're realizing that those things are coming with white labels and the damn cheese don't melt. That's why people think it makes great, that it made great real cheese because the shit didn't melt, right? Like, the moment that right, that wick is your lifeline, right? That you're going to the store looking for certain things is the moment that you have the innate ability to affect your future. The moment you recognize your consciousness is the moment that you are charged to be a part of your revolution for your community.
All right, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it right there because I want to get to. We're gonna end the conversation right there in the stream. But I want to say, and then we're gonna come back after the conclusion. We're gonna for our wrap up. We're gonna talk about this whole crap with Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless and how it actually ties into what we're doing. Listen, I do have a question for us. Did the Black Panther Party give us a blueprint to deal with this? Hey everybody. Hey Monet, unmute for me.
Hey.
Hey, how y'all doing? All right, yeah. Thank you for. How you guys think that went? We're still live though. We're just doing it after stream. How you guys think that went? That conversation.
That's the most I don't talk to at any time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hey Monet, did you get to see most of it?
No, I jumped in right at 8. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the whole thing because what I've heard thus far was really good, and y'all hit on some points that need to be spread out there. But this last 30 minutes of which I've been able to hear has been it's been excellent.
Okay.
I mean, y'all been speaking from the truth, from the heart, which is important.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about this. Monet, so do you know who Shannon Sharpe is?
No.
Okay. Shannon Sharpe, and I should have pulled this stuff up, but I don't want to tear up my screen when I see it again. Shannon Sharpe is a retired former NFL player. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's won 3 Super Bowls. He co-hosts a morning sports talk show on FS1 with this guy named Skip Bayless, a white man named Skip Bayless.
Undisputed
is what the name of it. Well, yesterday they were talking. I'm gonna tie this into our topic tonight. Yesterday they were talking about the NFL quarterback Tom Brady and the fact that he's 40-something years old, still playing, but this year his play has not been so great. So Skip Bayless accused Shannon Sharpe of being jealous of Tom Brady because Tom Brady was still playing at 45 and black Shannon Sharpe had to retire at 35. And then Shannon Sharpe made the comment, hey, you act like that I'm some bum off the street. I got 3 Super Bowls. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I ain't no bum. And Skip Bayless said, I don't care what you got. You ain't better than Tom Brady.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's right. He's right. You're not better than Tom Brady because you play an entirely different position than Tom Brady. So you'll never emulate the type of records and type of numbers that Tom Brady did because that's not your role on the team, Skip Bayless. If you ever played the game at a professional level, you would know that. But, you don't know how to stay.
My issue with the whole thing is his comfortability with being able to talk to that black man with the level of vitriol tone. And then when Shannon Sharpe took his glasses off, Skip Bayless gonna tell him like he's a child, put your glasses back on. Like he's a child. When I say, where we're going to be responsible for our own, how in the world are we not calling for Skip Bayless's public apology?
Right, like
for the level of
all the time.
Because let me tell you something. If this was about 10 years ago or 20 years ago, when Shannon was still in the league playing, and he did some mess like that, Skip Bayless would have got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about what happened? Those of you who saw it or heard about it.
Well, I think you're correct. He definitely need to apologize publicly, not behind the door, which I know he probably did behind the doors because he didn't want what took place to affect his bottom line, but it did affect his bottom line because Shannon Sharpe is human, and you hurt that man's feelings. You disrespected him. He told him. He asked him, he said, so you're going to disrespect me for Tom Brady. In other words, he's saying, we're co-hosts here, and we make money together. But you're going to deviate that much in order to give praise to somebody. But Skip Bayless is like that.
And he said yes. And he said yes.
Because, and his actual words were, because Tom Brady is far better than you, is far better than everyone that's ever played the game. And I think that is as asinine as you can get.
Yeah.
That's a 9, that's a 10, that's 11, that's a 12. Come on.
Everything.
Yes,
let me tell you something. Skip Bayless has framed himself as this highbrow, conscious, let me learn about your issues and plight. And I tell everybody this, and I know I tell everybody this about white people. Let me tell you something. I don't care how good they are or they come across. Put them in the right opportunity with the right pressure, and who they are will show up every time.
Every time.
And it showed up right on time. Let me tell you, I saw this coming about a month and a half ago when I started noticing how vicious, how personal, and the body language between the two. And then what I think the linchpin of all of this was the Kyrie Irving stuff, because Shannon made the statement, there seems to be awesome extra sauce when it comes to us. And Skip Bayless went off on him about that. This is just a precursor. So every time I look around, everywhere we go, even Shannon Sharpe represents his family, his legacy, us. We might not agree with like all of his politics or whatever, all this stuff, but he represents what black men should hold themselves out to be publicly.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And to sit there and watch this man, this Skip Bayless, make the attempt to emasculate him. Now I'm pissed off because I stopped watching First Take because of what Stephen A. Smith, his stance on Colin Kaepernick. I checked out on him. So my only sports show I got left is Undisputed. Now I got to check out with them because of funky Skip Bayless.
I mean, listen, in my opinion, and I used to dig First Take. I really did. But in my opinion, the stance that Skip Bayless took in that interaction showed me everything that I need to know about Skip Bayless and his exit from First Take. To me, it seems that to Skip Bayless, it's you need me, baby. You wouldn't be nothing without me.
That's true.
The only reason that you here, baby, is because I'm Skip Bayless.
Right.
Right? I mean, the only reason that people know who Stephen A. Smith is because of Skip Bayless. Because Skip Bayless is willing to say some of the shit that, Stephen A. Smith now kind of gets away with, right? The whole, like I said, that's a 9, that's a 10, that's 11, that's a 12, right? And so now you move on to Undisputed, but again, Stephen A. Smith was never a professional athlete, right? Now you're dealing with a professional Hall of Famer, right? Played the game at the highest level with some of the highest level professionals in this game that will always be revered in the game of football, right? Skip Bayless is feeling himself, right? He's got, his name is coming out of some very prominent people in our community, right?
I didn't know they called him, that he got a nickname called Drip Bayless. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, every time I see that dude, he's got on J's, right? He's trying to show off his thing. Mm-hmm. He's thinking he got some swag in his bag.
Lil Wayne is my boy.
You got a pass, homeboy. And that pass comes with an expiration. The minute you're not cool, it's not cool for you. Listen, go to any hood. Go to any hood. If your pass isn't validated, you're not welcome. And I believe the only reason that Skip Bayless has some of those passes is because he's been connected with some brothers who are connected.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you would be doing around the horn like Tony Reali or you know what I mean, Max Kellerman. Like, let's keep it a bean.
Yeah. I'm fed up with seeing the constant blatant emasculation of our men, and I'm sick of the fact that we feel the need that we don't have to do anything, that we can't do anything about it, or that we got to be a higher brow than them in order not to be perceived a certain way. I'm getting to the point in my life, maybe it's just my age, or maybe my own maturation. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not for that no more. I'm not about walking soft. I'm not about talking soft. You cross that line. You can get it. That's kind of how I look at it.
All of it.
All of it.
Not some of it, not part of it, all of it.
All of it. And I think, I think maybe, maybe it's just time for us, and I know that a lot of us are still tied to the dominant economics stream. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? But let me tell you something, you don't get everything that Europeans want. They went and took it.
Yep.
And sometimes you got to be willing to sacrifice. You can't expect to be viewed, taken seriously if you're not willing to sacrifice. And I don't think the last 30 years we're willing to sacrifice at the level that we need to, and as a collective like we need to. I think we had a lot of lost moments throughout our history. Like I think we fumbled the Million Man March thing. I think we fumbled it. I think
there.
Huh?
Who was the leader there?
Farrakhan.
I think that was the only issue that made that crumble, because it was so many brothers out there, so many sisters out there willing to support us. But who was the leader that we were surrounding ourselves around, right?
Farrakhan.
That what I believe was the issue, right? When you talk about social movements, it's about having a charismatic leader. It's about coalescence. It's about having a song in the streets. What was the song in our hearts other than Million Man March? What was those things? Who were we rallying around to help us get into that next phase? I believe that is what caused that to fail, that particular movement.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just wanted to touch bases on that. I'm just kind of tired of it, and and it's one of the reasons why I do what I do, the streams the way I do them, and why I ask the questions in the manner that I ask them, because I want to invoke something, you know what I mean, to think about it from a very brutal standpoint. These, asking, are we cowards? That's who's ever asked us that, you know what I mean? Given the totality of the things of our outcomes, and we're letting it happen. I mean, who's asking that? Who's asking, are we fit? If our women are not following us, that mean, are we fit? Yes, I think we are, but I'm asking the question because I'm looking at the outcome, and the outcome says that we're not. So do we need to ask ourselves those questions in that way, because our outcomes are saying different stuff? Ain't no way our age group should be out here and we still trying to figure out how to be with one another. Get out of here.
But that's the issue.
We're still trying to figure. We gonna be 70 years old talking about, I'm independent. I don't need no man. 70.
But that's the issue. It goes back to what I said earlier. It goes back to exactly what I said earlier. We try to get here, but we way here.
Yeah.
Let
me tell you something.
That's not cool.
Gen X and Gen X's children, which me and Monet are, they call us Xenios. We were lied to. Yeah, you too. We were lied to. We were lied to about we were lied to. We were sold a bill of goods, and we accepted and adopted behaviors that we had no business doing.
That is such a beautiful piece that I love, and I use it in some music that I made before. But that's one of the pieces of Dr. King's speech that they don't necessarily highlight. He said, America has given the Negro people a blank check, and that check has come back marked insufficient funds. Right? I love that so much, right? The birth of a bounce check, right? Yeah. That to me is the epitome of America, a bounce fucking check.